friggin' thing isn't working. Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. He's Aaron William Freeland, and all I can say about this is if I look a little blurry to you, it's because my green screen has decided to play. I look like I'm almost not here. You see that? I almost look like I'm not here. Maybe that's a message I should be adhering to or thinking about. But anyway, let's carry on with why we're here. We're here to talk about sports in Canada. Well, we call it Leaf Talk because it's Leaf Talk, Maple Leaf Talk. And by Maple Leaf, the red Maple Leaf Talk. That's what we're talking about. So one of the organizations, teams that's carrying and doing their more than their fair share of carrying the weight of Canada on its shoulders is, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays. And they're doing a masterful job of it so far. I mean, it looked like there for a second they was going to stumble, fall down, and then get basically not lapped, but passed by the Red Sox and the Yankees. Well, that's me knocking on wood saying, hey, baby, maybe not. And one of the reasons maybe not will depend on how the bullpen does.
So the good news is, after a rather interesting swoon, shall we say, through the month of August, the relievers look like they're finally getting everything back on course. Friday night, they ended up with a 6-1 win over the Orioles. Now, don't be fooled. It's not like they ran out the score in one inning. That was a win that was built on patience and pitching. It wasn't a one-man shutout, but actually a group effort. They had to use 5 relievers. And that was to hold the Baltimore Orioles to just 1 hit and no runs through 4 innings, and help them build some separation on the Tigers for the best record in the league. Schneider was saying it's hard to be a reliever. There's ups and downs. What I love about the way they went about it, the relievers and the coaching staff, is they're diving into ways to get better and tweaking the way that they prepare a little bit. Bassett attributed his early exit from the game to rather than any specific element, to a whole bunch of stuff. It's one of those, I wasn't 100% feeling normal. He exited after 75 pitches through 5 frames, which is I suppose one of those sort of things that you need every once in a while to make sure that you're feeling okay. But the true platoon there was when they actually managed to get the rest of the relievers to help. After posting a 4.76 ERA in August, that was the 7th worst ERA in the majors for relievers. They've actually managed to lower it to a collective 3.54, and they managed to get their home runs per 9 down from 0.99 to 0.64. So that's a solid start for them.
Absolutely. Like the way they're playing. They're doing a great job. And one of the reasons they're doing a great job is they're diminutive height-wise, not so much wide-wise. Am I making a fat joke here? No, I'm not. But I am pointing out the fact that I love the way he looks and the way he plays, because there are a lot of people out there who can relate to his body structure, and to prove that even with that body, that's a horrible thing to say, that a lot of people can relate with what he looks like, and Alejandro Kirk has been a monster of a player for the Blue Jays since he came and joined the Toronto Blue Jays.
They were down by 2, down to their final 2 outs, and it just looked like it was one of those situations where the Jays had the O's right where they wanted them again. That was, I believe it was their 45th comeback win of the season, which is a franchise record that they co-held with the 1993 World Series team. In beating the Orioles, they again went deep into their bench. They deployed 4 pinch hitters to get 2 key hits from them. Kirk with an RBI single in the 8th to put the Jays to within a run at 3-2. And Joey Loperfido, who answered a Kobe Mayo solar homer in the 9th with a single into right field to plate Dalton Varsho. So they've been getting assistance from all parts of the team, and it's a very good thing to see.
Absolutely, a really good thing to see. Okay, let's go to the CFL, and as two Argo guys here, Argo coverer by me, Argo fan by you. Holy moly, they won their 3rd straight game. And you know how many games did they lose by the skin of their teeth and their chinny chin? And now they play 3 games in a row, and I'm counting hairs here because I'm really not sure. Yeah, they've been this time, I've been talking about how each and every game, Arbuckle has been better and better and better. He took a step back in this game, and fortunately for him, the rest of the team did not.
No, this is one of those things where he had a lot of turnovers. I was absolutely amazed that they managed to get out of it as easily as they did. The issue that they're running into here is, at least in this particular case, when he fell down, the rest of the team didn't. So at the end of the day, he ends up doing just enough of what he needs to do, and the team ended up doing just enough of what they needed to do in order to make sure that they got the win. So happy to see that. And this is one of those 3 in a row wasn't something I don't think anybody was expecting, especially with the way that they started the season. But good on them for.
Nobody expected them to have the start of the season they had either, Aaron. So this has been a surprising season front to back so far.
Yeah, I think defying expectations is the watchword for the Argonauts so far.
Expect the unexpected. That's all I can say to you right now when it comes to the Toronto Argonauts. But here's what you can expect after Aaron finishes his thought. Please finish your thought.
Well, it was just at the end of the day, getting that kick that they did with no time left on the clock was truly a blessing. Ho'oralahu has proved to be exactly the tonic that they need for this sort of thing. So very relieved that he's back with the team.
Hey, don't underestimate the challenge that he was up against. That was a 40-plus field goal, 48. I think it was a 48-yard field goal. Yeah, you can tell I'm not using stats here. I was standing on the field when he kicked that ball, and I watched it. And because I was standing on the field, the players got in the way, both teams. And I looked at the person beside me and the other person beside me, and they looked at me like, "What's the matter with you? There's a TV screen there, and there's actually 2 of them over there." And so I went, "Oh, right, okay." So he got the field. Yeah, he got the field goal. And I was ready to march onto the field to get to the other side where we interview the players, because the Argo locker room is on the other side of the field. And on the other side of the field is the VIP lounge, which is where we do the interview with the coach. So I was waiting to dart across. I made it right to where the Argos were about to go through them. And then I saw a little discussion going on over here. And in the center of the discussion was Ryan Dinwiddie. Ryan Dinwiddie was in the middle of a hassle, middle of a problem. He's such a wonderful, gentle human being. What happened? Well, it appears a coach, an assistant coach, and a former player, not to name names, because I'm not even going to mumble the name. No name mentioned. The whole game was tantalizingly being difficult. And underline tantalize, if you get what I'm saying, if you get my drift. Well, apparently, Ryan Dinwiddie had enough of it. And he went across there and he basically said, "Enjoy your off season." The implication being, we beat you and we're not done yet with kicking you out of the playoffs. So there's a little bite in Ryan Dinwiddie's arsenal of whatever emotional stuff. And I know this about the players. That kind of standing up for oneself is something the players can get behind, right? Because it's all about our team. It's creating that team unity. We saw it when the Alouettes won the Grey Cup with the guy that was playing quarterback for Edmonton. We saw Fajardo talk about during the whole playoffs how nobody believed in us, the Montreal Alouettes, and we're here to prove you wrong. Nobody believed in us. Nobody believed in us. He said it in the playoffs. He said it in the Grey Cup, before the Grey Cup. He said it after the Grey Cup. And at the end of the day here, what this is all about, as far as the Canadian Football League's Toronto Argonauts are concerned, they're going to try and repeat the impossible they've already done before. So this is nothing new to the Toronto Argonauts, and that's winning a Grey Cup, let's say, with a record of 9-9. They can very easily achieve 9-9. It would also mean that they would have to win every game except one. But they can actually do that. They have the ability to do that. The toughest part for the Toronto Argonauts, Aaron, I'll ask you and everybody else who's watching, flip to the last 3 games, and you'll get an indication of where they need to be and why it's going to be so important that they go into those 3 games with a good run going. They got to win the next few games because they're going to be up against, they're going to be up against some tough opposition. They got Calgary, I think, Saskatchewan. I'm trying to remember. Montreal.
So this Friday's Montreal. And then the weekend after that is BC.
The last 3 games of the season. They got to win this game. They got to win the next game, the game after that. And then the last 3 games of the season are against the best, Calgary, are against the best teams in the Canadian Football League. Hamilton, Calgary, and Saskatchewan. That's the last 3 games with those. I'm sorry, I don't have anything in front of me. This is strictly me caring about the game. So that's why the next few games are very important, because it's going to be tough for them to win those games or be competitive. But here's the good news, Argo fans. If they're competitive in those last 3 games, if they win them all, or if they look like they could win them all, they're going to be going into the playoffs on a good run. And we know what that means in the Canadian Football League. That's how you win a Grey Cup. You got to get on a roll before the end of the season, then stay on the run in the playoffs. That's what they're up against.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that they can do it. It's just making sure that everything clicks at the right time. And sitting at 5-8 now, tied with Edmonton, who are in last place in the West, sits them in good stead. They're 1 game behind Montreal, who they're playing on Friday, and they're 3 back of Hamilton in first place. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could find themselves exactly where they need to be.
As I've said on the other show and this show, and I'll say it here as well, if you haven't heard me say it before, they need to get to the point where they're in charge, where they determine their future. They got to get as close to equal as the other teams. And then once they do that, then the ball is in their court, mainly because the West has to win more than the East to get the 3rd playoff spot. And the other thing is tiebreakers. So if Toronto beats Montreal now, they've got a tiebreaker they can get against them. Now, I think catching Hamilton's going to be a little bit of an issue. Ottawa and Montreal, the 2 teams they need to beat in the East. And, of course, then we've got the situation with the Western teams that they need to beat. BC, Edmonton, which they took care of. That's why it was important they beat Edmonton in this game. They beat Edmonton, and now they've got to figure out a way to get ahead of Winnipeg. And Winnipeg and Edmonton are the 2 stumbling blocks. As long as they catch them, they'll be catching both Montreal and, of course, Ottawa. All right, so let's go on to, let's see, Tyson Philpott. We're talking about the Als in the game he had against the Riders, Aaron.
Yeah, he put up 238 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns in the Montreal's 48-31 win over the Roughies to end a 5-game losing skid. MBT returned from a 3-week absence to make his 6th start of the season in his 100th CFL appearance. He was looking Philpott's way downfield from the jump as the Als pulled up a crucial road win against the West Division leaders. MBT finished 21-27 with 369 passing yards. Shea Patterson ran in the other 2 scores from Montreal, who jumped out to a 28-10 lead at halftime and never looked back. Trevor Harris threw his 200th CFL touchdown in the 2nd quarter, finding Keyshawn Johnson for a 38-yard score. He would finish with 252 passing yards and an interception. AJ Wallet had 90 yards on the ground while punching in a 4th quarter touchdown as well, but unfortunately at the end of the day, just a little too late. Just too little too late.
That was another game that, if you're an Argo fan, last week all the games worked out in their favor. This week, not so much. the win against the Elks was their control. That was a good finish for them. Montreal beating the Riders. Nope, that wasn't one they needed. It was more of a hope that the Riders would win and beat the Owls and keep the Owls close to Toronto. And the next game, the Red Blacks, the Lions.
Yeah.
That one, in my opinion, would have been better if, for Argo fans, if BC had lost that game.
Well, you know,
already, so
when your quarterback's putting up over 300 yards a game with a touchdown, and his leading receiver has 97 yards and a touchdown, and one of their other rushers, James Butler, has 44 yards and a touchdown, it's kind of tough. I mean, even though Dustin Crum had 307 yards, one behind Nathan Rourke's, and a touchdown, it's one of those things where it was just too much from BC. At the end of the day, unfortunately, Ottawa didn't have the horses to go all the way.
100%. You're right. Let's talk about the Ticats. They claimed Friday Night Football victory over the Blue Bombers. So we would have preferred a Blue Bomber victory if you're hoping that the Argos play relevant games moving forward. And since I cover them, it's totally selfish. It has nothing to do with rooting for the Argos. It has to do with rooting for myself and wanting to be more relevant.
Well, I'd rather be happy than be right. But, you know, at the same time, Bo Levi had 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. Greg Bell had 137 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And Kenny Lawler, grabbed 7 receptions for 97 yards in the win. Chris Streveler threw for 173 yards, a touchdown, and 2 INTs, as well as ran in a touchdown. Brady Oliveira carried 15 times for 116 yards. And Ontario Wilson led the Blue Bombers through the air with 55 yards. But at the end of the day, the Ticats ended up winning 32-21 at Hamilton Stadium. This helped move them to 8-5 in the Eastern Division, which puts them 3rd overall behind Calgary, who are at 8-4. Calgary has a game in hand. However, they were on a bye last week, so they ended up not playing. Which, this is difficult. The problem that we're looking at here is Toronto only is 2-4 in their own division. Hamilton is 5-1. If we're going to try to get past them, then we need to make sure that we improve our play within our own division. Otherwise, it's going to get infinitely harder.
I think it's simpler than that. They got to start a game with equal amount of points, 0 with their opposition, and then end up at the end of the game with more points, so that the end of the season ends up to their benefit. It's really that simple. They've got to win. Let's talk about about Canada and the Davis Cup. They played Israel in Nova Scotia, and they came up on top.
Yeah. So Canada advanced to the 2026 Davis Cup qualifiers with a 4-0 win over Israel in a best-of-5 tie, played in an empty Halifax stadium amidst protests. Liam Draxel of Newmarket and Cleve Harper of Calgary came back from a set down to defeat Jordan Hassan and Ulfek Shamanov 5-7, 6-0, 6-4 in Saturday's first match. Singles wins by Liam and Montreal's Gabriel Diallo on Friday meant the doubles victory seals Canada's advancement out of the World Group 1 stage and into next year's qualifiers for the main Davis Cup tournament. With victory assured, Canada elected to replace world number 35 Diallo with Harper for a singles match with Orlhimi. Harper, playing in his first Davis Cup tie, completed the Canadian sweep with a 6-3, 7-6 win. Tennis Canada made the call earlier last week to hold the matches without spectators or media present, citing safety concerns. The streets around Halifax Common were closed for about an hour as a few hundred protesters chanted, sang, and waved signs. People holding a banner made from a tennis net that read "Don't play ball" led the demonstration. Even with 400 Canadian athletes and academics signing a petition urging Tennis Canada to cancel the game, however, it still went ahead. So this improves Canada's standings when it comes to where they're sitting with the Davis Cup next year, and wishing them all the best for that.
There's a large amount of reasons why people are unhappy with what's going on in the Mideast. While there is reason to think, this is an opinion on my part, there is reason to think, to question Israel's behavior. At the end of the day, when you look at the bigger picture, the complete picture, a lot of crap that both sides need to reconsider. I wish they would work that out, Aaron. It's a long history of stuff, and there's nothing that can be justified there. In that world, there is no action that can be justified, even though some people try to. All of it's unjustifiable. Canada's Marino ousted second round of women's singles.
So Marina Stukasic batted at 500 in Mexico on Friday in the Guadalajara Open. She knocked off the tournament's third seed during the day and then lost a late-night quarterfinal match. She upset Jelena Ostapenko of Latvia 6-4, 6-7, 6-2, then dropped a 6-2, 6-3 singles quarterfinal match in just 74 minutes to Milena Arango of Colombia to bow out of the WTA 500 event. Against Ostapenko, Stukasic won 87% of service points and scored the only break of a solid first set. She led the second set tiebreaker 5-2 before Ostapenko rallied to take the extra session 7-6. But she remained her momentum in the third, scoring 2 breaks to clinch the win. Against Arango, she had 31 unforced errors and 2 double faults, no aces, and a 36% first serve percentage, which is unfortunately not going to win you anything. But because of her play, the 20-year-old from Mississauga has advanced to her first quarterfinals at a WTA tour level event since last year's Guadalajara Open. So that's good news for her. It'll help her improve in the standings and give her a very, very valuable experience.
Habs are hoping Kirby Doc's back, maybe in time to play the Maple Leafs.
Yeah. So after knee surgery last year, which ruled him out for the entire season, the Habs reporters, including Amy Johnson, reported that Jeff Gorton is optimistic that Doc will be ready for the opening night. He played 57 games last year, scoring 10 goals and providing 12 assists. It's a scoring punch that they're hoping that he regains his form. Several things need to happen in his rehab. Gorton's timelines come with an assumption that he may not suffer any setbacks in his rehab or conditioning, and his performance during the training camp upcoming is going to be key. If he returns half healthy, they may lose a key player for the better part of the season.
Let's talk about the Sens. They lose in overtime 3-2 to the Jets.
Yeah, now they ended up getting a split with the Jets. They played at the Bell Center in Montreal. Unfortunately, they came out on the short end here. Fabian Wagner picked up a rebound, 117 to overtime to secure the win for the Jets prospects. The Senators opened the tournament on Saturday with a victory over Toronto Maple Leafs prospects. The Sens outshot the Jets 37-22 through 60 minutes. Oscar Pettersson and Yorian Donovan scored for Ottawa in regulation. But at the end of the day, again, it was Winnipeg coming out on top.
Battle of prospects. Flames beat the Edmonton Oilers prospects.
Yeah, they swept the Next Gen showcase there. They beat them 5-4 in the second and final game at the Scotiabank Saddledome in Calgary. It did not start well for Calgary. They conceded a goal from Edmonton's Tommy Lafreniere and a penalty in the first 3 minutes of the game. One of those things where everybody's getting to feel everybody else out, get a sort of a sense for what they've got in the pipeline and who might actually come out on top when it comes to the Calder Cup in the AHL this year.
Talk to me about the roster that the Edmonton Oilers have and how they're talking about this being it. It's now or never, baby.
Well, the good news is the Edmonton Oilers aren't the oldest team in the NHL. The bad news is they're the second oldest.
We're the oldest, the Leafs?
No, Florida Panthers, actually, for the past 2 years. Right? There's a surprise. Now, the Oilers are right there. They're sitting on the cusp of peering right into hockey's holy grail. They have the horses to win the race. They have the experience, and you better believe they've got the desire to do it. But this is getting right down to the short strokes. This is where they've got to do it, mainly because you're looking at a team that is collectively 31 years old, second to the Pittsburgh Penguins at 31.5, and the Buffalo Sabres have the youngest roster at 26 years. So, McDavid's due for a new contract. They've got some other players that are coming due as well, and it's going to be difficult for them to keep winning if they don't do it now.
Yes. So we're down to McDavid has to make a decision on whether there's a future in Edmonton as far as winning a Stanley Cup is concerned, because ultimately he's made that clear. He wants to know that his team is competitive. And the only problem with being competitive in 1 year, it makes it harder to be competitive in the next year. That's the truth. I mean, Florida's an anomaly. That they clearly are an anomaly, and they had some assistance twice now in winning the cup with injuries that have allowed them to play with a more expensive team than they could have had under normal circumstances. Let's talk about the Canucks and their prospects.
So they were actually playing against Seattle in a Prospects Challenge series this weekend. Seattle won the first game 5-3. The Canucks announced on their social media after the second period of that first game that Brandon Coots, who was the number 15 overall selection in June, wouldn't be returning for the third period. They didn't get into any specifics of what was bothering him. When that carried over into the next day on Sunday, there was a rematch. The Canucks won 3-2 to earn a weekend split against Seattle's prospects, so that's good. But there was unfortunately no injury status update for Braden Coots. This is. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
Well, I was going to say he's probably going to be relegated to the Abbotsford Canucks as it currently stands. This is an opportunity for him to get a little more seasoning because he's younger. And they were saying that he was sidelined with light stuff, not heavy stuff. So that's a bit of a relief.
In Leaf prospects, playing the Montreal Prospects, the Leafs won 4-1. That was a good thing for some of the young players that are trying to establish themselves.
Oh, for sure. Ryan Torberg has spent the past 2 seasons with the Marlies, scored twice in the third period for the Leafs. Philip Misar tallied for the Habs late in the second period. However, Luke Hames also had a couple points in the event, and Vladislav Peksa, 2-year vet of the ECHL, was solid in net for the Leafs, and to praise from Marlies coach John Gruden. So. They ended up with a split. They lost 4-3 to the Senators prospects on Saturday, and then ended up winning 4-1 over the hometown Canadians in a rather spirited affair. Let's just be polite and call it that. There were a few knock 'em down, drag 'em outs. So it's not necessarily looking bad for them.
Leaf Radio loses. Maple Leaf organization wins, especially the part of the team that's behind the bench. Giordano joins them behind the bench.
Yep. It had previously been announced that the Marlies coaching staff of Gruden, Dyke, Sullivan, and Hannu Toivonen would be overseeing the group of prospects at the mini tournament. However, Mark Giordano was also spotted standing alongside the other coaches. He was confirmed to be behind the bench for the Leafs, but it's unknown what his role is with the personnel who traveled to Montreal this past weekend. Haley Wickenheiser was asked about Giordano's role earlier this summer, to which she replied, well, I'm not sure what he's worked out with Brad in terms of moving forward with a role, but he certainly knows the organization. He's been around and I think is interested in coaching and the developmental side of things. So this could be the Leafs giving him a bit of a tryout just to see if he's interested in continuing.
Well, and see what he has to say other than what he says sitting at a table, on radio. Yeah. Let's talk about the Leafs are looking at an ex-Flames forward that we know the history of the infamous charges that were laid against 5 Canadian junior players. Well, they were junior players at the time.
Well, we know that Carter Hart is taking up most of the oxygen around this discourse when it happens, but the other 2 players that are currently drawing some interest are Dylan Dubé and Michael McLeod. Now, while they won't be able to suit up in game action until December 1st, they are able to start talking to teams come October 15. And one of the organizations that are supposedly in the running for Dylan Dubé are the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, that doesn't mean that Toronto's a front runner. It doesn't mean that the Maple Leafs are going to land him, but they kind of need a top 6 forward. The assumption is that a player like Dubé could come in and fill that role. This is where you have to kind of do a cost-benefit analysis for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Is it worth the potential headache for them to sign this particular player, even though he's been found not guilty of the charges that were laid against him related to the 2018 incident? They do still need to consider how this will impact not only the team but other factors around it as well. One of the things that people have failed to mention here is the fact that other players in the NHL who are not necessarily satisfied with the discipline that the NHL has meted out could take matters into their own hands. Also, fan reaction is going to be a big part of it as well.
At the end of the day, there were the charges. They weren't found guilty, and the government's not going after them at all. They've dropped it. They've dropped the interest, and now it comes down to political reaction, and it comes down to corporate interest. That's what this all is. It's all about. It's about corporate interest. As a corporation, as a company, the National Hockey League took their time in saying, yeah, they can get a contract. They told them December 1st. And now it's up to the Leafs to figure out whether this guy's reputation is salvageable. Because if it isn't salvageable, it could be a problem like you suggest, depending on how he behaves and how he has behaved and whether there's anything else to concern oneself with, which I think is the other shoe. The only other shoe the Leafs should worry about is has he not put himself into anything like this situation that he found himself in. That I think that's the key here. Anyway, Aaron, great day. Thanks for doing this. Beautiful day. It's going to be a nice week. Get your last golf games in. Get your last boating and camping in, because it's going to be a great week. Have fun.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Aaron. He's Aaron Williams
from
Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out on YouTube Candid Frank Stanishi 1030. Until next time, ciao, ciao, ciao.